Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Luffy ate the Rumble fruit part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video, and also go support the doubledamn for writing that awesome fanfic. Let's start this video. Ushia village was a small quiet town located in the East Blue Sea, the weakest and most peaceful of the 4 seas. A place where people go about their daily jobs and have a nice quiet drink in the local bar in the evening. All in all, a nice small quiet safe town that does not have a lot of activity, that is, unless Vice Admiral Garp or the Red Hair Pirates are in town. You can't be a pirate, Luffy. You're too small, you need to grow up, anchor, and you aren't strong enough to be in my crew. You're too puny. Work on getting bigger and stop daydreaming, Shanks said, laughing. Shanks was a man with red hair. He had a bit of stubble on his chin and wore a puffy white shirt, black pants, and a cloak. His sword hung belted to his hip. Looking at him, he did not look like a man the world government would send all the admirals and vice admirals after if they thought they could kill him. He also did not act like one of the Yonkou, the 4 most powerful pirates of the Grand Line and New World, or a former member of the Pirate King, Gold D. Rogers' crew. He was a man who liked to party and did not mind making friends with children, as such he enjoyed making fun of his new friend, who, just as you can imagine, did not take it too well. Nah. I'm not puny. I'm strong. Grandpa Garp trained me, I have a punch that is strong enough to knock out anyone with one shot. Shanks did not doubt that Luffy would be strong for his age if he survived Garp's torturous training. Once, when he was still an apprentice pirate under Roger, he was unfortunate enough to meet the marine hero Garp. But he could not tell Luffy this. The Grand Line was not called the pirate graveyard for nothing, and the New World was even worse. Alright Luffy, tell you what. If you can knock me out with one punch, then you can come with us on our next voyage. Deal? Luffy grinned, deal. Luffy closed his eyes and got an intense look on his face. Then, suddenly his eyes flashed open as he jumped up on the bar and hit Shanks right in the jaw, sending the pirate captain flying into the far wall. At the moment Luffy's fist hit Shanks, the crew felt a powerful wave of energy that caused some of the weaker members of the Red Hair crew to faint. The crew was shocked. Shanks recovered first, he was not one of the Yonkou for nothing. See, I'm strong. Now you have to take me on your next voyage, said Luffy. Shanks stared in shock, a kid sent him, Red Hair Shanks, flying with one punch. He looked around and saw that some of his crew had fainted. He was shocked that these guys could hang around him in battle and fight some of the strongest enemies in the Grand Line and the New World, but were overcome by a child. Shanks was seriously considering taking Luffy with him, but then thought of the dangers of the sea again for a 7-year-old kid. He would die in that sea, and he liked the kid too much to see anything happen to him. Shanks. I'm strong. Luffy said. Luffy, how? Shanks asked. How what, Shanks? Luffy replied. How did you send me flying? And that wave of energy you put out, how did you do that? Do you really want to know? Asked Luffy, with a slight grimace. Flashback, fucking Gramps, dumping me in a bloody jungle and tells me survive and find my way out. Saying, you will be a strong marine. I don't want to be a fucking marine, I want to be a pirate. He ignored the voice in the back of his mind, telling him that Gramps' training was making him stronger. After all, how many kids know how to knock out an adult twice his size? Or take a punch from Garp? Or build shelters and hunt for food? However, this line of thinking was cut off when he heard a loud growling noise, a pack of wolves heading towards him. He did not even think, he ran fast and hard with the wolves in hot pursuit. He was still only a 7-year-old boy after all. The wolves gained ground and took him down, biting his arms and shoulder. He stared into their yellow eyes and screamed, I won't die here. I will survive and become a great pirate. And no stupid wolves are going to stop me. A massive force was released from the child, and the wolves pinning him down fainted, and some of the others had died from the force of Luffy's will. Then flashback, I then tried to use that force again on some deer and a bear mother I ran into. Gramps then found me and said he felt a massive wave of haki and came to find the source. When I told him what happened, he explained that I had discovered my haki, called the Will of the Conqueror. He said he will train me how to use mine to make me a great marine. Shanks was shocked, a kid had discovered how to use his, on pure instinct. But before he could dwell on it further, someone kicked open the bar door. A tall man with long dirty hair entered. He made no attempt to hide the blade at his side. As he walked through the door he shouted out, make way for the Scourge of the West. We're mountain bandits and I'm a man with a bounty 8 million on my head. Now give us 20 barrels of rum and we won't wreck this bar and kill all of you. This was impossible as Shanks and his crew had drunk all the alcohol in the bar. Sorry, sir, but these pirates here just drank the last of my stock, said Makino. As she told them this, Shanks held up the last bottle of whiskey. Dear mate, this is the last one, not even opened yet, enjoy. The bandit cut the bottle with his sword that would seem impressive to anyone who has not seen a true sword master, but Shanks and his crew were unfazed by the mediocre skill. the bandit shouted at Shanks. I'm a man worth 8 million berries. I need more than one bottle of whiskey. You just wasted a good bottle of whiskey, mate. The bandit leader suddenly punched Shanks, not strong enough to do any damage to him. Shanks played along and pretended to be hurt so the bar would not be wrecked. The bandit, his ego sated for now, left smiling. Luffy however was furious to see his idol not stand up to defend his honor against a bandit. Luffy didn't realize how far out of the Red Hair's league the bandit was and was angry that Shanks did not fight him. Luffy screamed at Shanks. Shanks. Have you no pride? You should have fought him. Shanks stood up and put his hands on Luffy's shoulder. Luffy, it was only whiskey. They're not worth it. Luffy pouted at Shanks and turned his back on him, which allowed him to see the odd fruit at the Red Hair pirates from an enemy's ship. Luffy, thinking it was just food, he ate the fruit for dessert. Shanks turned back to Luffy to see if he had cooled down and panicked when he saw that the fruit was gone. AHHH. Luffy. Did you eat the fruit in that box? Yeah, but it tasted horrible. Shanks quickly grabbed Luffy and frantically started to shake him upside down and got shocked by small sparks coming from Luffy's body. Luffy, you just ate the Goro no me, said Shanks, or the rumble fruit. This is one of the ocean's hidden treasures and gives you the power to create and control lightning, but curses you with the ocean's hatred, meaning you can never swim or go near seawater. If you try to swim you will sink to the bottom of the sea and drown. Shanks eyed, his friend's life just got a lot more complicated. The next day, the bandits were walking through town, loudly bragging about how Shanks and the red-haired pirates were weak and no match for them. Enraged, Luffy challenged the bandits to a fight for Shanks' honor. Luffy beat the bandits using his lightning, but due to his young age and inexperience with his new abilities, he fainted after expelling so much energy. The remaining bandit kidnapped Luffy. The mayor and Makino confronted the bandit and his men after they recovered from Luffy's beating. No fucking way we're giving this kid back to you. We're gonna kill him, then pillage this shithole of a town. Just as the bandits are about to kill Luffy, reinforcements arrive in the form of Shanks and the Red Hair pirates. One of the bandits points a gun at Shanks, but is quickly killed by Shanks' first mate, Ben. Insult me, laugh at me, I don't care about those things. But try and hurt one of my friends and I will destroy you, says Shanks, as he releases a small burst of dot. The bandits are easily defeated by the Red Hair pirates. Looking around after the fight, Shanks panics and screams, AHHH. Where's Luffy? Calm down, Captain, we'll find Luffy. Ben says, trying to soothe his captain's panicked state. Ben spots Luffy and the bandit out at sea. There they are, Captain. And he points out to the sea. The Red Hair pirates look out to the ocean and see the bandit king with a tied up Luffy in a boat preparing to throw Luffy into the sea. Shanks jumped into the water and swam out to get Luffy. As the bandit sees Shanks coming, he throws Luffy into the water and tries to get away in the boat. As he frantically paddles away, a sea king known as the Lord of the Coast appears and swallows him. Luffy woke up when he was thrown into the water and struggled to stay afloat as the fruit had not been fully digested yet. Luffy saw that he and Shanks were about to be eaten by the Sea King, panics, and uses what little energy he has left to reach Shanks in the water while thinking, I have to get me and Shanks back to shore. Unknown to him, his devil power fruit powers reacted to his will, moving him and Shanks to the shore in a flash of lightning, escaping the Sea King. Thank you, Luffy. It looks like you're coming with us on our next voyage. Really, Shanks? Yeah, you're going to be my pirate apprentice for the next 10 years as we train your powers and keep you out of the Marines' hands. We're going to make you strong enough to live on your own. Shanks? Yeah, Luffy. Thank you. Haha, no problem, Anchor. Get your stuff ready, you won't see your home again for the next 10 years. 10 years later, a fancy-looking cruise ship was sailing along the water with various guests dressed in expensive party clothes. The ship was guarded by a marine escort when suddenly there was a warning from the crow's nest. Pirates. It's the Alvida pirates. The Marines' training kicked in and they fought the pirates, but the enemy beat them easily and hauled up a barrel that was in the water. Only the three of us and Kobe know about this, and Kobe won't say anything about this. Right, Kobe? One the pirate said. I ain't seen nothing. Please don't hit me. Kobe tried to back up and shrink into the corner. Let's open up this baby and get a drink. What the hell? Luffy stared at them from inside the barrel until they attacked him, then he knocked them out in a few seconds with one punch each. Thanks, Kobe. I'll take care of Alvida. How do you know me? Why did you do that? They will tell Alvida that I know you and I will get the Iron Mace. Kobe, don't worry, my name is Monkey. D. Luffy, I'll take care of this Alvida person. Luffy, how did you end up here and inside that barrel? I was sleeping in a raft after visiting friends and got caught in a whirlpool on my way back. So how did you end up here on a pirate ship, Kobe? 2 years ago I got into a boat going out to sea to fish, but what I did not know was that it was a pirate ship taking their crew back to their ship. Luffy, you have to get out of here before Alvida hits you with the iron club and kills you. Kobe said. I'm hungry to get some food and cash. Besides, if Alvida gets in the way I will beat her senseless. Besides, I can't die until I become Pirate King. Kobe gaped in shock. Pirate King. Then, Luffy, are you a pirate? Luffy nodded. Impossible. The Pirate King is a man with wealth, fame, and power, everything in this world united in one man. The last king, Gold. D. Roger was the only man to conquer the Grand Line. Impossible. Luffy, you will die if you try to become the Pirate King. Luffy stopped eating here, his eyes becoming shaded by his straw hat as he stood up. It's not about whether or not I can do it, Luffy said quietly, drawing Kobe's attention. Luffy plucked the straw hat off his head, looking at it and reliving the memories that went with it. I promised my old captain I will become king of the pirates. Besides, if you aren't willing to fight for your dream then you might as well be dead. That is my dream, to be Pirate King, and I will crush all who stand in the way of my dream. Kobe stared at Luffy in shock. Even though we have only met, I'm inspired. I will accomplish my dream and become a Marine. I will leave and join the Marines, and when I'm a strong Marine, I will come back and arrest Alvida and all the other pirates like her. Whatever Kobe was going to say next was cut off when the door exploded in a shower of wood. Kobe, who are you going to arrest? Alvida asked. No one, Alvid. Whatever he was going to say was cut off by Luffy. Luffy pointed at Alvida said, who's the hag? The crew backed away in fear, and Alvida with little effort brought down the 10-ton iron club right on top of Luffy's head. But the mace just passed right through him and gave Alvida a few small shocks due to Luffy's Loja abilities. Luffy reformed and grabbed Kobe and got him out of the way and told him, stay out of the way Kobe or you'll just get killed. Let me take care of this blimp. Alvida. That was pathetic, you're an embarrassment to pirates everywhere. Said Luffy. Alvida stared in shock as her mace went right through him. How? She asked as the crew stared in shock. I ate the Goro no me, so I'm a lightning man. Now it's my turn. Luffy raises his left hand and puts it facing the crew, see if you can survive this. Sango as he announces his attack, a massive burst of electricity is unleashed from his palm, wiping out Alvida's crew in one massive blast. Alvida stares in shock and fear at the power that was discharged. She tried to hit Luffy with her club one last time, but Luffy caught it and exclaimed Chidori Nagashi and shocked Alvida. Alvida feels her body go numb and Luffy looks down at her and states, you would not last a day on the Grand Line. You would be slaughtered. I suppose this is the weakest of the seas, so there is not much opposition for a pathetic pirate like you to reach notoriety. Now, where are the smaller boats, Alvida? And your treasure? Tell me or I will throw you overboard and let you drown. 10 minutes later, come on Kobe, let's leave, I got what wanted, said Luffy with a bag full of loot. 10 minutes later, so Luffy? Kobe said, trying to start a conversation. If you're aiming to be king of the pirates that means you'll have to enter the Grand Line, right? Yep. But it is dangerous to sail there, most sailors die in those treacherous waters. They call it the pirate graveyard for a reason, you know. I've been to the Grand Line before when I was an apprentice pirate under my old captain. I know my way around the Grand Line, besides only the weak pirates die in the Grand Line, those who can't cut it. You've been to the Grand Line and lived to tell the tale. Said Kobe in shock at hearing his friend had been in the Grand Line. I came back to the East Blue to recruit some strong crew members to go after One Piece. My first target for recruitment is the pirate hunter Rorano Zoro. He's being held by the Marines on some bogus charge. But if he's in prison he's a criminal. Said Kobe. Don't care, I'll see if he'll join my crew. Said Luffy. Kobe was looking at Luffy while thinking about what he saw Luffy do on the ship and asked Luffy the question that was on his mind. Luffy, you said you ate devil fruit, right? Yeah, said Luffy. How was Alvida's mace able to throw you? And how come you were not hurt by the mace? Asked Kobe. That's because I ate a Loja class devil fruit, those are the types that allow all types of attacks from weapons or attacks from other fruit users, or even a bullet from a gun will not affect me, since I can just reform, or if I chose I could just shock or kill them with lightning. What do you mean Loja class? Asked Kobe, sounding confused. Well Kobe, there are 3 main types of devil fruits, they are called Paramecia, Zone and Loja, and each of these have their own abilities. The Paramecia class gives the user a physical superhuman ability, and an example of this is the Chop Chop fruit, which allows the user to separate their body parts to attack someone or to escape a slash from a blade. The Zone class gives the user the ability to transform into an animal and gain that animal's abilities, for example a person who could transform into a cheetah would gain that animal's speed and strength while using their powers. And finally a Loja class fruit user can change their whole body into a specific element or energy, which can make them nearly impossible to hit physically, and they can also regenerate their whole body and control that specific element if necessary. An example of this is the Goro fruit that I ate as a kid. Do you understand Kobe? Luffy said. Yes, said Kobe. The two sailed in silence for a while until Kobe got curious again. Where are we going? Asked Kobe. We're going to an island called Shell Town where Zoro is being held. It's also where you can fulfill your dream of being a marine as there is a base there, said Luffy. Kobe looked ahead and he could see the base in the center of the island. Hey Luffy, when you were fighting Alvida, you said this was the weakest sea. Why would you want to recruit people from here if they're weak? Luffy looked a bit surprised at the question before answering. The East Blue is the most peaceful of the 4 blue seas, Kobe. However, despite its reputation, this ocean has produced some of the biggest monsters of the previous and our generation. The Fist, the Dark King Rayleigh, the Revolutionary Dragon along with Gold Roger himself were all born and raised here in the East Blue. And me as well, of course. Kobe looked stunned that so many strong people were from his home ocean. If all those strong people were born here, then why do people say that we're a weak sea? Because Kobe, despite having some really strong people to its name, every halfway capable pirate from the East Blue goes to the Grand Line as soon as they can, leaving only the weakest in the East. Once you're in the Grand Line, you belong to that sea, the subject of your birth sea doesn't come up much. But to answer your original question, I'm here hoping to find some hidden gems that haven't made it to the Grand Line yet, or some locked potential that just a little push to become magnificent. I'd take you with me, but you want to be a marine, and although you have great potential, I wouldn't be able to help you with it. You'll need someone a lot more patient and a lot more bloodthirsty than me to get to the top of the world, Kobe. In fact, I may have an idea who could help you. I just hope he isn't too mad at me for running off like that. Once they had docked the ship, Luffy and Kobe headed into town to get something to eat and drink before looking for Zoro and enlisting Kobe in the Marines. After walking around town, they saw the marine base surrounded by a 9-foot-high wire fence. The land beyond that seemed to be barren. But upon looking closer, they saw a man wearing a green bandana over his head, a white shirt and black pants, and a green haramaki sash tied over his waist, tied down to a wooden cross. Standing in front of him was a little girl with pigtails. "TT, that's him. That's Roronoa Zoro." Kobe stuttered fearfully. But Luffy ignored him and wanted to see what would happen next. It seemed that the little girl was feeding Zoro a rice ball, as if they were friends. Then a lanky man with bowl-shaped hair wearing a purple blazer walked onto the punishment grounds with 2 Marines as an escort. You could tell just by the way he walked he thought he was better than everyone else. He snatched a rice ball from the little girl's hand and tasted it and then spit it out screaming, "Yuck. That's horrible, it's much too sweet, rice balls must be made with salt." "You, Marine." "Yes sir." "Throw this girl over the fence." The Marine reluctantly did as ordered, and the little girl would have hit the ground hard had Luffy not used his devil fruit powers to flash to where she was going to land and caught her in his arms. He then put the nervous little girl down. Kobe stared in shock at Luffy's speed. He blinked and Luffy had disappeared. Kobe looked left, right and could not find where Luffy had disappeared to. He then looked behind him and saw Luffy inside the marine base grounds talking to Zoro. "Yo. Are you Zoro?" Luffy greeted me. Zoro looked up to glare at who was talking to him. It turned out not to be a marine, but a kid with black hair with a scar under his eye and black pants and a red shirt and a black coat worn over his shoulders and a straw hat on his head. "Who the fucking hell are you?" he asked, not wanting to deal with any more bullshit. "The name's Luffy and I'm a pirate," he responded. "So, I'm looking for a first mate to join my crew, and I heard you are really strong." The pirate hunter glared at him. "Get lost. I'm not interested in becoming a pirate. After all, I'm a pirate hunter. Why not have a change of carriers?" Luffy asked. "This guy is really starting to annoy me," Zoro thought. Pirates are nothing but cowards that lie, cheat, and steal the first chance they get. They would slit their crewmates' throats in their sleep if they thought they could get rich quicker or get more power. Besides, I can't leave, not until my sentence is up. How long will that be? Just 5 more days. Luffy was silent for a moment as he thought about Zoro's answer. "Boy, pirates, do me a favor and get me that rice ball on the ground." Luffy did what he was asked and held it in front of him. "You're seriously going to eat this? It's filthy. Just shut up and feed me the fucking rice ball, pirate." After eating and holding down the dirt ball, Zoro turned his attention back to Luffy. "Tell that girl thanks for me, will ya?" The pirate hunter's eyes widened when he noticed that Luffy had vanished. What the fuck was that? I must be seeing things like heatstruck. Zoro said he loved it and said it was the best rice ball he ever had, Luffy told the little girl, Rika. Rika was smiling. "Really?" Her eyes full of happiness. "Yeah, he said it was lovely and that you're a great cook," Luffy told the little girl. "Let's take her home to her parents. They must be wondering where she is," Kobe said. "Okay. Lead the way, Rika." Rika led them to her mother's bar that her family owned. After Rika introduced them to her mother, they told them about the captain's corruption and how Zoro had saved them from the captain's son's wolf by killing it as it went to attack them both, and how he threatened Zoro that if he did not spend 10 days in the stocks he would kill Rika and her mother and burn down the bar with them in it. Zoro agreed on the condition that he would spend 10 days in the stocks without food or water, providing that Rika and her mother were not harmed in any way. Kobe was shocked. That man did not deserve the honor to be in the Marines. He's a disgrace. The arrogant bastard from before who ordered for Rika to be sent flying came in. Wench gets me a round of drinks. Later when he had 2 rounds he started to brag. Tomorrow I'm going to have that Zoro executed in the morning as a joke. All the locals in the bar were too afraid of the bastard's father Axe-Hand Morgan to say or do anything. That statement alone made Luffy angry, who stood up from his seat on the bar stool and grabbed the bastard by the throat and spoke in a cold and fighting tone. You are a cowardly little insect with no honor. Since you won't keep your end of the bargain, I'll teach you some manners and the evils of breaking your word, said Luffy. The hand that had the captain's son by the throat slowly got covered in an eerie blue light. As the hand was fully enveloped, Luffy said, have some shock therapy from me free of charge, and released the electricity stored in his hand. The bastard's screams echoed throughout the entire bar. Helmeppo was lifted up by the marines who had heard his screams and came to investigate. He manages to wheeze out, I'll tell my father he is Captain Axe-Hand Morgan. Go ahead, run home to daddy, you pathetic little shit. Maybe I'll teach your daddy some manners as well, said Luffy as he kicked him in the face and sent him flying out into the street. Luffy was standing still and controlling his breathing. Meanwhile Kobe was panicking, saying he'll get the marines to kill us. Kobe, calm down, worse come to worse I'll fight and beat the shit out of the marines, Luffy said. Kobe stopped and looked at Luffy, only to find him to have disappeared again. Meanwhile with Zoro, who was imprisoned in the stocks where he was about to succumb to heatstroke when Luffy came to talk to him again. Zoro sighed. You again? Look, I already told you, I'm not joining your crew. Did you know that the little wimpy bastard is planning to execute you tomorrow? Luffy asked, not changing his tone. Zoro's eyes widened at this new information. Fucking lying, cheating little bastard, cursed Zoro. What are you smirking at? Zoro said to Luffy, who had a small smirk on his face. Well, you have 2 choices. 1, agree, join my crew, I break you out of here, or 2, stay here and be killed by the marines, said Luffy. That's fucking blackmail, said Zoro. I'm a pirate, what do you expect, said Luffy. Fine, I'll join your crew. I swear on my honor as a swordsman, said Zoro. But first you have to get my swords that little bastard Helmeppo took. There's 3, he put them somewhere in the base, said Zoro. Luffy's grin widened. No problem. And disappeared in a flash of lighting. Zoro's eyes widened and said, what the fuck was that? Something tells me this is going to be very interesting, he said with a grin. In the top floor room sat a large man who was the textbook definition of arrogant. He had an axe implanted into his hand and he looked vicious and cruel. He only cared for himself and thought everyone else was below him. He was the captain of Shelltown, Axe-Hand Morgan. He was currently looking out the window, observing what he deemed it to be his greatest achievement, raising a 10 feet tall statue of himself. Moments later, his disappointment of a son barged into his office. Father, a stranger in town, attacked me. I want him executed. Morgan's patience was nearly gone. Father, aren't you going to do something? He attacked me even though you never hurt me, he cried. Do you know why I've never hurt you? Morgan asked his son. Helmeppo was taken aback. Is it because you love me, your son? No. Helmeppo was knocked back into the wall opposite of him, courtesy of his father's left hook. Because you're not worth hitting, you are a disappointment to me as a son. Tell me, have you killed the intruder who was sneaking and feeding the prisoner? No, she's just a little girl, said Helmeppo. The captain turned toward one of the marines at the door and ordered him to go into town and kill the girl and her family. But the marine stood defiantly. Sir, I will not obey. Even if you are ranked higher, I will not obey that order as it is unlawful and wrong. Morgan hit him with the blunt side of his axe and said, I will do it myself later. Be glad that I am feeling generous. Now get that statue up and don't break it, Morgan said to them. When suddenly Morgan heard a shout of Byakurai and his statue was blown up. Morgan looks down and sees a teenager with a straw hat and with smoke coming out of 2 his fingers that were pointing in the direction of where his statue once stood. Luffy looked up and said, sorry, but that thing was an eyesore, Luffy said. How could anyone look at that without wanting to break it? I did everyone here a favor by destroying that thing. Morgan, who was by now furious, yelled, capture that little bastard and bring him to me. I'll kill the little bastard myself now. However, as soon as the marines charged Luffy, they suddenly found it hard to breathe, and pretty soon they were on their knees struggling to gasp air and started to see visions of their own death being killed by the devil in front of them before they passed out from the strength of Luffy's dot. After Luffy had taken care of the usual marine grunts, he spotted the little insect from before hiding behind one of the walls, hoping not to be noticed. When Helmeppo spotted the demon from earlier coming towards him, he tried to run but was slammed against the wall. Well, if it isn't the coward from before, now unless you want more shock therapy. Show me where you put Zoro's swords, said Luffy. After Helmeppo showed Luffy the room where he put the swords, Luffy took them and knocked out Helmeppo with an infused fist to the face. Luffy then jumped down to where Zoro was tied up and used his blade to cut Zoro's bindings and free him. "Here are your blades, Zoro, now you're my first mate, welcome to the crew," said Luffy. Morgan, who had seen all of his men defeated and the prisoner freed, jumped down and charged towards Luffy. When he was close, he brought his axe down on Luffy, intending to split him in half when to his surprise, his axe went through him, but to his shock, Luffy just reformed after being hit. "I'll kill you, fucking little bastard, you ruined my statue, you're a nobody and nothing while I'm a great and powerful marine captain. No, all you are is an overgrown lighting rod, and you know the thing about lighting rods is they tend to get struck." Elfer, Luffy shouted while holding up two fingers facing the sky. As he did this, Morgan was struck with a massive bolt of lightning, and all that was left of the cruel axe hand Morgan was a piece of the wooden handle of the axe and a giant scorch mark where he once stood. And so ended the reign of the terrible axe hand Morgan, defeated and killed by the future Pirate King. 3 days of sea now stretched between Zoro and Shell Town, but the battle still piqued at his curiosity. Zoro thought about what he saw at that marine base, the way the marines who tried to attack Luffy suddenly fell to their knees and appeared as if they had trouble breathing before passing out. Unused to troubled thoughts, Zoro decided to ask the source of the problem, if you will. "Hey, Luffy. Back at the base, what was that? How did you knock out those marines that tried attacking you? I didn't even see you move," asked Zoro. "Oh, I used my haki to knock them out." Zoro's new captain shrugged. "They were weak-minded, so they were knocked out easily enough. What's haki?" Zoro asked. The swordsman had heard about it on his journey but never knew what it was. Haki is the force of your will and spirit in a physical form. It can be used in different ways. One of the ways is to use it to strengthen your muscles in either your arms or legs so that you punch or kick through anything, even sea stone. It can also be focused into a blade to cut through giant ships or buildings with a single swipe of your blade. Haki can also be used to fight Loja fruit users. Some masters of Haki can use it to cancel the effects of sea stone on fruit users. Luffy explained. Anyway, Luffy plunged on. "We're nearly there. We can get some food and supplies up ahead." Ahead of Luffy and Zoro there were 3 pirates floating in the water. When the two stopped to find out the 3 pirate story, Zoro and Luffy learned that the 3 had stopped when they saw an attractive orange-haired girl in a small boat with what appeared to be a treasure chest. The 3 pirates thought it was their lucky day they could score some treasure from a hapless and helpless girl. The girl had promised to give them her treasure if they helped her. However, the orange-haired girl double-crossed them and stole their boat, leaving them in a storm with a sinking ship. Now the 3 pirates floated in the water with a mixture of awe and outrage. "How did she see the storm coming?" the first pirate asked. "I don't know, but once we find her we will kill her," the second pirate said. "Look ahead, there's a boat coming this way, let's steal it and find that thief," the third pirate exclaimed. Meanwhile, on a nearby island where the buggy pirates had taken up residence, the pirate who ruled Orange Town was a pirate who had sailed with legends like Red Hair Shanks and Gold D. Roger and the infamous Dark King Silver's Rayleigh. Nowadays, this pirate known as Buggy the Clown just ransacked towns in the East Blue and stayed away from big-time action that would draw the attention of the Marines. "What do you mean my maps were robbed? How did she open my treasure chest?" Captain Buggy asked. "We don't know. Only the thief knows how," one of Buggy's men replied. "Care to repeat that?" Buggy asked. "I said only the robber knows." The pirate then realized that his captain heard something different than what he said. He tried to plead with his captain, "Please, captain. Spare me, it was a mistake." But today was just not the pirate's day. "Rubber nose," Buggy shouted. "Load the buggy balls. Fire the cannon." Men scrambled to load and fire the cannon at the unfortunate pirate, destroying half the town in the process. "Find that thief and get my maps back." Orange Town. An orange-haired thief was running through the streets of Orange Town, having just stolen from a pirate by the name of Buggy the Clown and being chased by pirates. When she spotted 2 men up ahead walking and got a devious idea to pretend that one of them is her boss and let them fight it out while she escapes. "Oh, boss. You're here. I've been waiting for you to rescue me." Luffy grinned. "Yeah. It took me a while to get here, but I'm here." Nami raised an eyebrow but continued on. With a leap, she ran down the street. "I leave everything to you." The buggy pirates grimaced at her running, but turned to Luffy. "Now we'll teach you what happens when you mess with the buggy pirates," one of the pirates threatened. Luffy disappeared and reappeared in front of the pirate, planting his fist in the confused pirate's face before delivering a haymaker that demobilized the pirate. The second pirate charged towards him with a sword in hand, but Luffy grabbed the pirate's wrist and threw him over his shoulder. But the attacker stunned, Luffy twisted the pirate's arm and broke it and kicked him in the face, effectively knocking him out. The last pirate rushed towards him, but Luffy covered his fist in lightning and put it through the pirate's heart, killing him instantly. Luffy then looked towards the roof of the building on his right-hand side and said with good humor, "You can come out. Did you enjoy the show?" "Absolutely. You're pretty strong," Nami said. Luffy smirked. "And not to mention handsome to boot." He waggled his eyebrows at her. She giggled. So what's your name, pretty lady? I'm Nami. I'm a thief who only steals from pirates. Want to be partners? No. Luffy said simply and without explanation turned to Zoro. Let's go, Zoro. No. Nami asked, surprised. What can you do besides steal? Luffy challenged. I'm the best navigator in the entire East Blue. Nami said with pride. Why didn't you say so? Let's borrow one of these houses and iron out the details. Luffy proposed. So, you robbed Boogie of his map of the Grand Line and another map of an area you don't recognize and now he's chasing you down? Luffy summed up Nami's story. Nami nodded and Luffy grinned. So, what do you say? Join my pirate crew as my navigator. Forget it. I will never join a pirate crew. Nami exclaimed. Then how about a temporary alliance? You will never get Boogie's treasure by yourself and I want that map of the Grand Line. Me and Zoro will take care of Boogie and his friends and we split his treasure. Once I get the map, I don't care. Deal? Fine. It's a deal. Nami agreed. Anyway, I got a plan. This way we both get what we want. Luffy grinned. Meanwhile with Boogie and the clown pirates, what? You lost track of the map's thief. You three strong men chase after one thief and end up like this. Boogie screamed. We're really sorry, Captain. They pleaded. But there was a really strong guy. He was her boss and he wore a straw hat and he was really fast and strong. A painful death. The three crewmen tried to plead for their lives, but Boogie killed them all. Captain Boogie. What? He screamed, spittle flying everywhere. The thief we just saw returned here herself and she has some stranger with a straw hat tied up in rope. Okay. Bring her in. I captured the thief, Captain Boogie, leader of the strongest pirate fleet. I will return your map too. Nami announced while Luffy snarled at her, startled. You tricked me. He complained, but Nami only stuck her tongue out in a mocking gesture. Boogie grinned. I see you're obediently returning the map to me, but why are you doing this? Nami grinned childishly. You see, I got into a fight with my boss. He's an idiot, so I thought I'd join up with you. Boogie blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice. Then he threw his head back and laughed uproariously. Hahaha. An idiot, eh? I like your attitude. I think I will let you join my crew. He laughed even harder as the crew cheered. Nami grabbed Luffy and threw him into the iron cage they provided. Break out the rum, boys. Let's celebrate. Boogie turned towards Nami and lifted his drink. To our newest crewmate. Now, Nami. To join my crew and prove you have what it takes to help me rule the Grand Line, all you have to do is fire the cannon and kill your former boss. But right now drink up. Boys. We're gonna to see an execution. Boogie cheered. What now? Nami asked Luffy under her breath. Fire the cannon. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Luffy said. Okay. Load the boogie balls. Now, Nami. Time for you to prove your loyalty. Goodbye boss. It's been fun. Nami said and then she fired the cannon. Ha. Welcome to the crew, Nami. Boogie cried. Man. That would have hurt had it hit me. Luffy's disembodied voice made Boogie and his crew's eyes shoot wide open. Where are you? Boogie demanded. Here. Luffy cried behind Boogie who jumped and turned around only to be met with a punch to the face and his head fell off thanks to his devil fruit powers. Luffy then kicked Boogie hard in the family jewels and every man there, even Zoro, who was on the far roof, winced and checked everything was still there from the force of the blow Boogie received. Meanwhile, Boogie was on the ground crying in pain from the blow to his pride and joy. Zoro jumped down from the rooftop landing in the middle of some pirates who were surprised to see him. Boogie slowly stood up with anger written across his face. No one does that to me. And he launched his hand with a knife in it at Luffy who caught his hand. You will have to do better than that, Boogie said. You forgot I have two hands to attack with. He said even as his other hand appeared next to Zoro and stabbed him in the side. I missed anything vital, but he will still bleed to death if he is not treated. Boogie gloated. Shit. Nami, get over here. We have to get Zoro out. Luffy commanded. Right and flare. And all Boogie and his crew were temporarily blinded by a flash of lighting. When they could see again, Luffy and his crew of two were gone. Moji. Find them and kill them. I want their heads now. Boogie commanded as he stalked off. It's nothing, Captain. Don't talk, Zoro. Save your energy. Luffy hushed as he examined the wound. Here. Lie down, Zoro. Luffy takes a piece of cloth from his pocket and places it over Zoro's wounds and uses Zoro's sash to hold it in place. There was a loud roar in the distance and Nami said it's Moji the lion tamer. Let's get out of here. You're right. I can't fight yet until I patch up Zoro. After 10 minutes of running, Luffy laid Zoro on the ground and checked his wound. It was still bleeding. Desperate, he proposed an idea to Zoro. Zoro, I'm going to have to patch you up using my fruit powers. I won't lie, it will hurt like hell. It's your choice. Do it. I won't die until I become the world's greatest swordsman and the Pirate King's right hand. Isn't that right, future Pirate King? Besides, I'm not afraid of a little pain. Zoro said. Luffy just laughed and said, that's right. You can't die until you have accomplished your dream. Nami, put that cloth into his mouth for him to bite into. What are you going to do? Nami asked. I'm going to use my lightning to cauterize his wound. Lightning? Where are you going to get lightning when there is not a cloud in the sky? Nami demanded incredulously. I'm going to use my fruit powers. I ate the Goro Goro no Mi Aloja type fruit as a child, so now I'm a lightning man. Luffy explained. Get ready, Zoro, this will hurt. Here it goes. Luffy focused a small amount of lightning into his hand and said gloom paddling. There was a spark and Zoro's wound closed. Luffy then sensed someone coming and said to Nami, someone is coming. Get ready, stay behind me. Luffy then focused lightning into 2 fingers, ready to fire. What are you people doing out here? You're supposed to be in the shelters. The mayor exclaimed. Luffy relaxed and then asked the mayor, where can I put my friend here? He needs to rest. He was injured by Buggy the clown. Follow me, you can put him in my house. Mayor's house. Your friend woke up and he said he was fine and would not go to the shelters. The mayor told Luffy and Nami. What's the story with the dog sitting outside the shop near here? I thought he would be in the refugee camp in the shelters with some kid. Asked Luffy. The dog's name is Chao and his master was killed by Buggy. I believe the only reason he stays outside that shop is because it is the last thing left of his master, so he wants to protect it. The mayor explained. So I feed him every day. Anyway, it's time for me to feed him. The mayor walked out the door with Luffy and Nami behind him to feed the dog outside the shop. They then heard a loud roar and the mayor said, it's Moji the lion tamer. Let's get out of here. The mayor panicked and made a grab for Nami to get her to run. Nami shimmied away from his hand. Don't grab me, Luffy said. Nami. Go with the mayor, I'll take care of Moji. Besides, I can't afford to have my navigator hurt. Nami nodded and went with the mayor. Looks like it's just you and me, boy. What do you say we put this overgrown pussy through obedience school? Luffy smirked at his companion. The dog just barked in agreement. Well, look at what we have here. Looks like I caught a thief. I'm Moji, Boogie's first mate. They call me the lion tamer. Moji laughed tauntingly. Looks like your friends left you. Tell me where the others are and I may let you live. Meanwhile, Nami was peeking around the corner of one of the houses and thought to herself, the bastard's going to sell me out. However, she was surprised with what she saw next. Let me ask you a question. Did you lose a bet with your hairdresser? Is that why your hair looks like that? Besides, I don't sell out my friends. Then die. Get him, Richie. The lion pounced. I don't think so. Luffy laughed and disappeared in a blur of speed and formed his sword of lightning. Batenjutsu. Luffy reappeared past Richie and sheathed his blade. The lion suddenly fell to the ground, unconscious and covered in cuts and blood. Richie? Moji mourned. You bastard. Moji charged. Luffy sighed, fine, have it your way. Luffy released a small amount of which stopped Moji in his tracks and sent him flying along with his lion by one well-placed hockey enforced kick right into the bar where Buggy and his men were. Nami came out from behind the house and asked Luffy, how did you do that? You just beat Boogie's first mate and his pet lion like he was nothing. Why Nami, that's just the strength of the man who will be king of the pirates. Luffy said with a grin. So Luffy, why are you a pirate? I mean you don't seem the type to go around ransacking towns and killing and terrorizing innocent people. Any idiot can raise a Jolly Roger and start terrorizing towns and call themselves pirates. What they don't realize is that if they only rob cruise ships or merchant ships carrying drink and weapons and then hide out in the towns, the villagers will keep quiet without the need to terrorize. If you spend a load of cash in their town, that way both sides win. And the pirates have somewhere to treat their wounded, sort out loot, and lay low from their enemies. Luffy grinned and adjusted his straw hat. Besides, a true pirate is not afraid to fight to accomplish their dreams even against the world government. Nami had to admit that Luffy made sense. Meanwhile with Buggy was sitting drinking in the bar when Moji and Rish came crashing through the roof seriously hurt. Who did this to you, Moji? How could someone be able to hurt you two like this? Buggy asked. It was the thief's boss, the pirate. He did this. He was too strong, Captain Buggy. Buggy shouted, load the buggy balls. We got a town to destroy. Back with Luffy and his crew. Luffy and Nami heard a loud explosion and watched as the buildings in front of them exploded. They covered their eyes. Man, that's one hell of an alarm clock. What did you do, Luffy? Zoro asked. Just picked a fight with Buggy and his crew. What do you say we go and show Buggy our power? Why not? This is going to be fun. Zoro grinned as he readied his swords. Besides, we need to show our new navigator our power. Luffy said as he put his arm around Nami, who did not object to the contact or what Luffy said. I'll fight too. The mayor said. Luffy appeared behind the mayor and said, "Sorry old timer, but this town will need a mayor when this is over and done with." Luffy then knocked him out with a chop to the back of his neck. Luffy then reappeared beside Nami again. With Buggy, "Fire the cannon. Wipe this place off the map," Buggy ordered. He looked down when he heard someone shout, "Hey rubber nose." Buggy saw the straw hat punk from earlier. "Fire. Kill that little bastard." Magnetic wall. Luffy reflected the cannonball back at Buggy. "How predictable. You're pathetic, Buggy. I expected more from a man who sailed with Gold D. Roger and Shanks." Luffy taunted. "How the fuck do you know that I was on Captain's ship? And don't mention that asshole's name again." Buggy snarled. "Don't insult Shanks in front of me or you will find yourself in serious pain." Luffy released a small dose which caused most of Buggy's crew to foam at the mouth and pass out from the force of it. "Who are you? You're no ordinary rookie if you can use it." Buggy asked. "I'm the man who is going to be king of the pirates. I would have laughed if you could not use it, but now I'll kill you before you take my rightful place." Chop chop harpoon. Buggy's hand shot out with knives between his fingers, but Luffy deflected them with his sword. "I'll kill you. You won't last a week on the Grand Line." Buggy screamed. "I'll prove to you how weak you are." Chop chop festival. And Buggy's body exploded in a flurry of flying limbs. "Ha ha ha. How can you hurt me if you can't hit me? Today is the day you die." "I doubt that." Luffy grabbed the feet of Buggy. "Every fruit has a weakness, you just have to find it," Luffy declared as he stabbed Buggy in the foot and kicked him in the family jewels again. Buggy screamed in pain. "You bastard. Come together." Buggy commanded his body, but when he came together he realized he was 5 feet short. They looked over to find Nami as the culprit. "Sorry, Luffy. But I had to help out somehow. I can't have you two stealing all the fun," Nami said. Luffy grinned at Nami and said, "Thanks Nami, that was getting boring." Luffy turned to Buggy and said, "It's time for you to learn how to fly." Luffy gathered electricity into his hand and mixed it with his, so it took on a blue color. He asked Nami to get behind him and away from Buggy and roared for the whole island to hear Goro beam cannon and let loose a massive burst of energy which sent Buggy flying. The force of the blast destroyed everything in its path and obliterated Buggy until he disappeared over the horizon. 10 minutes later. "So what do you say, Nami? Will you join my crew?" "Sure. Hanging out with you will make me a fortune," Nami answered with a smirk as she flipped her hair. "Now we got a map of the Grand Line and a map to Captain John's treasure. Our course is set," Luffy exclaimed. The mayor came up crying. "You took care of the pirates and I was not able to do anything. If you had fought Buggy, all that would have happened is getting yourself killed. Anyway, you can have some of Buggy's treasure to help you rebuild." The mayor fainted when he saw the gold inside the bag that Luffy gave him. "Dear Nami, Zoro your cut of the treasure," Luffy said. "Hey. Where's Buggy the clown?" Luffy turned around, only to step back when a pitchfork was shoved in his face by an angry townsman. Where's Buggy?" "He's long gone. I sent him flying," the townsfolk murmured amongst themselves. "Then why is the mayor out cold? Are you pirates?" asked a townsman as he jabbed a pitchfork at Luffy's face. "Don't point that in my face." Luffy cut the top of the pitchfork off with his sword. "And don't threaten me." The townsfolk screamed, "Get them." But they were gone in a flash of lightning. They reappeared at the dock and they got into their boat with Buggy's treasure loaded into it. "We need a sniper and a bigger boat to get around in. It's too far from my main ship and I still need a sniper." "I have a good idea where to get one," Luffy said. "Besides, the next island is where I want to look anyway." "Wait. You have a bigger ship?" Nami asked. "Yeah. The only reason I use this boat is because I need some more crew members before I go back to the Grand Line." "Anyways Oro, Nami, how about I teach you two how to use them?" Luffy asked with a grin. "What's?" Nami asked, suspicious. "Aki is the energy I used to knock out Buggy's pirates." "Don't worry, I'll explain more on the way to Syrup Village. It's on the next island," Luffy exclaimed as the boat crossed the blue sea. Luffy lounged on deck of his small boat, his arms folded lazily behind his head as he gazed up at the clear blue sky. Seagulls circled lazily, small and dark in the bright sky. He smiled a little to himself when he thought of how nicely things were coming along. Luffy now had a strong and skilled swordsman for a first mate and a beautiful and talented navigator thief. What really confirmed them as good choices was how easily they picked up the basic principles of dot for people who had never even heard of them, were able to awaken their latent abilities at a rate Luffy hadn't really seen before. It meant that they were strong and their potential was endless. He was glad they were so capable because it would mean a difference between life and death when they got to the Grand Line. The opposition would be strong, but Luffy had faith in his new additions. The serenity of the day and solitude of his thoughts were interrupted when Luffy spied a pelican descending from overhead, the yellow anklet on its leg reflecting the sun. Luffy huffed and cursed silently at the brashness of the bird. The anklet meant it was a messenger pelican from his father. Luffy sneaked a quick glance at his crew and saw that they were mostly dozing, weary from training. He used his fruit powers to create a magnetic pull and the anklet flew off the bird. He caught it and discreetly tucked it into his trousers, deciding he would have to decode the message later. The pelican swooped low and landed on the boat, shaking out his feathers before taking off again into the bright sky. Now standing and not nearly as relaxed before, Luffy noticed that they were approaching the shallows. Grinning in anticipation, Luffy cheered his new crew members awake. Zoro. Nami. Wake up, we're at the next island. Zoro sat up clearly, his massive yawn making his eyes water. When he stood, his swords, which he had been hugging in his sleep, fell to the deck as he stretched. He bent and picked up his swords with a metal clang and readjusted them at his hip. Nami sat up and rubbed her eyes. Her already vibrant hair reflected the golden sun. They worked together to beach the boat they had liberated from Orange Town and stepped out onto white sand. Ahead the beach gave way to woods and bushes. They approached the woods cautiously, sensing someone concealed in some bushes to their right. Be on guard. Luffy warned. I think it's nothing though. Just some kids. But be cautious of snipers. Zoro nodded, one large hand already resting on the hilts of his swords. Nami's hand was at the small of her back, ready to grasp her extendable bow staff. Their intuition proved correct because the bushes rustled. They paused in their approach, wary. A young man around their age bolted out of cover then and stood before them proudly. He had a long nose and long curly black hair. He wore brown overalls and a green bandana. Peeking from the bushes, not quite as brave or foolish, were three smaller boys. From other parts of the woods popped up dozens of small Jolly Roger flags. The long-nosed team grinned confidently. I'm the great Captain Usopp, leader of the great and powerful Usopp pirates. I command 800 men. Leave now or face my wrath. Luffy raised an eyebrow, his hands resting on his slim waist. 800 men? He asked with a smirk. Are you sure your great and powerful crew doesn't just consist of those three brats? His smirk fell and Luffy became deadly serious. Zoro, Nami. Let's show this brat how real pirates fight. Luffy drew the pistol from his pocket. Zoro pulled his green bandana from his arm and tied it on his head, a hyena grin marrying his features as he drew his three swords. Nami took her staff from behind her back and placed the three pieces together and channeled her into her weapon to increase her power and senses. Luffy aimed his pistol at the big tree beside Usopp and focused a small amount of lighting into the chamber of the pistol and pulled the trigger. The sound of wood wrenching filled the air. Usopp tensed, visibly sweating as he looked over his shoulder. The tree behind Usopp had a massive hole, the wood splintered around the edges. It was too much for the three kids hiding in the bushes beside Usopp and they darted out from the bushes and fled toward the village, screaming and crying and leaving behind their leader. Usopp stayed rooted where he was, staring at Luffy with widened eyes. Luffy laughed and said to Nami and Zoro, I think the lackeys just deserted their fearless leader. The long-nosed teenager stood there, legs shaking and crying silently in fear. I'm the mighty Captain Usopp, leader of 800 men. See, Usopp whispered, horrified while standing on top of the cliff. Now where's your so-called crew of 800 men? Asked Luffy as he saw the flags fall onto the ground. Now get down here right now, Luffy tells Usopp in a serious tone. Later local bar, Sweetwater Saloon doubled as a bar and a diner and was as vanilla as the rest of the village. The four were gathered around a table, Usopp, regarding the three pirates warily. So, you're not here to ransack the town? No, we're just here to get some supplies and a new boat. Luffy assured Usopp as he took a drink of his beer. Well, you won't find any big galleons anywhere in this town. As for supplies, you just have to head straight up Main Street and turn right into the market district where you can get anything you need including food, drink, and clothes. You said your name is Usopp, right? Luffy asked. The wary look returned in Usopp's eyes along with something like pride, but he just nodded and Luffy continued. You wouldn't happen to know a man by the name of Yasopp, would you? Asked Luffy. You know my dad, where is he? The long-nosed teenager asked, stunned. Last time I saw him he was in the New World with my old Captain Shanks. Luffy grinned, happy to be delivering the good news. He never stops talking about you, you know my son this and my son that. Usopp puffed up with pride, but his smile was one of awe and gratitude. He'd been so worried. Most pirates don't care about the little results of their one-night stands they have during their grand adventures. That was 8 months ago, so he could be anywhere from Shanks' territory to the Grand Line. Luffy said with a shrug. Wow, he joined up with red hair, Shanks, Usopp muttered, somewhat starstruck. Yeah. While I was with him he taught me a few things, like how to shoot off the wings of a fly without killing it and how to snipe someone at 1200 yards. He's really good at what he does. Luffy paused and slightly narrowed his eyes at Usopp in thought. Are you any good with a pistol or rifle, Usopp? Sometimes I practice with my dad's old pistol and rifle. And I hunt deer and rabbits for extra cash. I never miss, even if my target's moving. Usopp answered honestly and proudly. Is that so? Well then, in that case, how about you join my crew? We could use a sniper as talented as yourself if you're that good. Luffy invited her. Usopp looked pleased for a moment before shifting uncomfortably in his seat. I need to think about it. Can I give you my answer later? Yeah, we'll be around town for today and tomorrow at least. Just give me your answer before sundown tomorrow or we'll leave without you. Luffy said firmly. Okay, thanks, I understand. Usopp said with a funny, wry smile before shifting to stand. I have to go. I'll find you later with my answer, Luffy. And then Usopp walked out the door of the bar. I think we have got a new crew member. Luffy said as he leaned back further into his seat. Nami smiled incredulously. How do you know? He didn't give you an answer. Because he is exactly like his father described him. And believe me, he talked about Usopp all the time. There was a beat of silence as Nami studied her new captain. How do you know his father is a member of the red-haired pirates? That's easy, he is my old crewmate. We both served under Shanks. You know red-haired Shanks? Luffy shrugged but couldn't hide his proud grin. I met him 10 years ago. He came to my home village to rest with his crew. He had a cursed fruit with him in a chest and well, one thing led to another and I became an apprentice pirate under Shanks. I was never supposed to be a permanent fixture in the crew. When I finished my apprenticeship 2 years ago, Shanks gave me his straw hat and I promised to give it back to him when I became Pirate King. It's my greatest treasure. Luffy told his crewmates as he looked at his straw hat in his hand. They looked up when the three brats from earlier crashed into the saloon and clambered up to their table, their little faces set in determination. Where is our captain? Asked one kid that was pushed in front of the other two, clearly the forcefully designated spokesman. Another brat leaned into the other two. Maybe they killed and ate him already? He whispered to the others. Luffy smiled to himself. Childhood innocence was amazing. He understood why Shanks loved to pick on him when he was small and call him Anchor, that stupid dreaded nickname. Now that he had seen his fair share of the real world, the isolated innocence of these three kids was fascinating. Their captain was delicious. Luffy agreed, rubbing his stomach to portray how full he was. Agris. The three children exclaimed and pointed their fingers at Nami, whose amused spectator expression quickly darkened into a firestorm. Why are you looking at me? Nami shouted and whacked the three with her fist on their heads. The three cringed and moaned, grasping their aching bruises. Luffy and Zoro fell into hearty laughter. He just left. Luffy told them, eyes watering from laughter, as he waved vaguely in the direction Usopp had left. He probably went to visit Miss Kaya. She's the heiress at the top of the hill with a mansion. The shortest kid piped up. Heiress? Nami asked, the promise of Barry piquing her interest. Well, she's already inherited I guess, so maybe not an heiress anymore. Her parents died and they were rich. But she's really sick and she doesn't get out much because she mostly stays in bed. She doesn't have a lot of friends, so Captain likes to go over there and cheer her up with tales of his adventures. The one who had acted as spokesperson put in. Or well, tall tales about his adventures, anyway. The third boy amended. Nodding thoughtfully, Luffy stood up from his seat and stretched. Zoro and Nami followed his lead and stood up as well. He nodded to the three kids, a genuine kind smile on his face. See you guys. Then he turned his attention to Zoro and Nami. Let's go and check up on our newest crew member and see what he's up to. They walked to their destination and circled the mansion quietly before ending up staring up at the wrought iron fence and thick hedges that enclosed the back of the property. What about the front entrance? Zoro asked, vaguely annoyed. Luffy shrugged. It's probably guarded and it's not worth the hassle. Besides, the locals will panic if they see that strangers are on the island, especially pirates. We don't have a ship yet. He reminded them. Patch up, I'm going on ahead. Luffy laughed and caught Nami's annoyed look and Zoro's grunt before he disappeared in a flash of lightning. He reappeared behind Usopp on the tree branch that he was perching on to talk to Kaya. Suddenly gleeful, Luffy leaned in and shouted into Usopp's ear. Boo. Usopp screamed in a totally manly and brave fashion and flinched, his highly instinctive self-preservation preventing him from falling out of the tree. Luffy bowed to a frail, pale girl leaning on the windowsill. My name is Monkey D. Luffy, and I hope that my newest crew member has not been causing you any trouble. Kaya giggled. How did you appear like that? Was that lightning? Kaya asked about getting over the shock far quicker than Usopp was. I ate a devil fruit called the Goro no Mi when I was a kid. So now I'm a lightning man, but like all devil fruit users I lost the ability to swim. Are you friends with Usopp? Kaya asked, indicating with a nod that she saw Nami and Zoro leaning against the bottom of the tree. Yeah, we are. I asked him to join my pirate crew as a sniper. Usopp blushed. I'm still thinking about it. He blurted out. Kaya nodded and smiled encouragingly before turning back to Luffy. Luffy, are there more devil fruit users out there? There are loads, just not with the same abilities as me. Some turn into animals, some can control elements like me, and there's one that even lets you separate your own body into dozens of pieces. We fought him just a few weeks ago. There are even more in the Grand Line. Luffy told Kaya enthusiastically, his arms waving frantically as he spoke. Kaya, always up for stories, though she preferred Usopp's, listened with rapt attention. Luffy told Kaya. You've been to the Grand Line? Kaya asked, wide-eyed. A brief fond smile fluttered over Luffy's features. Yeah. I've been all over it and into the New World. What is the meaning of this? A voice called out from the yard, badly startling Kaya. The crew plus Usopp turned as Clahater, the butler, walked up to Nami and Zoro. Clahater was a lanky, tall man. He wore a sleek black suit and silver thin wired glasses. His hair was slicked back. He had a streamlined appearance and a cold edge to his voice. He stood proudly and arrogantly, feigning patronizing disinterest at the unwanted guests. You do realize this is private property and you are trespassing? They are friends of Usopp. Kaya called down to Clahater. Yeah, we came to cheer Lady Kaya up. Usopp insisted. Clahater pushed up his glasses with the heel of his hand. I know exactly why they came here. They came to rob you blind and steal your wealth. Instead of sounding protective or concerned over Kaya, however, he only sounded judgmental and condescending. You're too trusting for your own good, Kaya. They're not your friends. Usopp was indignant and angry at this point, but before he could say anything the cold dark gaze zeroed in on him. So, you're this Usopp that Kaya keeps mentioning. Usopp, concerned over Kaya's growing stress, put on his usual brave act. Ah. They call me. Clahater interrupted with a bone knife grin. I know what the villagers call you, the liar, Usopp the nuisance. Shall I go on? Now there's no need to be like that. I get the feeling that you don't like me very much. Usopp mock pouted. Of course I do not. You are constantly bothering Miss Kaya with your lies and nonsense. Usopp frowned, genuinely puzzled at the abrasiveness, but kept up his act. Now I'm sure if you got to know me we could be good friends. Kaya giggled at the playful banter Usopp countered against Clahater's acerbic attitude. No, thank you. I do not associate myself with the son of a cheap whore who spread her legs for a filthy pirate who probably has a bastard child at every port. All ambivalence drained from the atmosphere. Usopp's cheerfulness vanished suddenly, replaced with a swift rage that surprised even him. What did you say? Kaya looked horrified that her butler would say such slander against Usopp against anyone. Sensing victory, Clahater positively preened. Can't handle the truth. That's why you shout that pirate nonsense all the time. Deep down you still hope that Daddy Dearest gives a shit about you. But he never will. He doesn't care if you live or die. No one in this village does. You're a bottom feeder like your mother and father. But you're getting tired of that, aren't you? That's why you're here. You're trying to take advantage of Miss Kaya, trying to con your way into her wealth. She has a good nature, but you're just interesting to her. She'll never like you, she'll leave you. Like your father left you, like your whore mother died to get away from you. I only came to stop you from carrying out your plan against Miss Kaya. Damn, everyone saw it coming but was still surprised when it happened. Kaya looked stunned and paler than ever. Usopp. She whispered, broken. Clahater's long body was sprawled on the ground as he clutched his jaw. His glare, magnified by his glasses, was still fixed on Usopp, something like triumph swirling in his eyes. You see? He knows that I know the truth and lashed out at me in anger to keep my mouth shut. He shouldn't be allowed near you, Miss Ka. Shut up. Usopp shouted, unconsciously leaking out a small amount in his desperate state. Surprised, Luffy raised an eyebrow. Hockey it's small, but I didn't think he would have a high enough ambition for someone like him. Looks like he's not such a coward after all, and he would make a perfect addition to my crew. Usopp had the butler by his collar, his entire body shaking with wrath. Keep proving I'm right. The butler challenged. You're a ruffian. You can't do anything but lie and show violence. Just like your father and whore mother. Stop. Please Usopp, don't hit him again. Kaya pleaded, the tears making her voice sound all the more paper-thin and fragile. Usopp stopped immediately, unable to bear Kaya's tears. Fine, I'll leave. He conceded, releasing the butler with a shove. I'm proud to be the son of a pirate. Don't talk about my father again. The threat or else went unspoken. My father is a better man than you could ever hope to be. He spat. He turned to Kaya, but was too angry to look her directly in the eyes. Goodbye Kaya. There was a loud clapping noise that echoed all around the clearing. Everyone's attention turned to Luffy, who was still perched on the tree branch. He hopped down, hands on his hips. Usopp, join my crew. I already know that your sniper skills are just as good as Usopp and you just tapped into yours. If you join us, you can live out your dream as a true adventurer of the sea and follow in your father's footsteps and become a great pirate. You will probably meet your father again if you join me. Before Usopp could find an answer, Luffy put a hand on shoulder. Wait a minute, Usopp. I've something to say to this butler. He turned to Clahater. Usopp is a respectable man and a great pirate. He loved Usopp's mother. He loves and misses Usopp. You, on the other hand, are nothing more than a snob with no actual money. Luffy, who had been approaching the butler as he spoke, finally halted and leaned in close to him, whispering. You can't even cut being a pirate. Isn't that right, Kuro? Kuro, on the surface, kept his cover and remained unperturbed. However, as the crew and Usopp turned to leave, he kept his dark gaze trained on the Straw Hat Pirate. I'm not gonna join your crew. Usopp said firmly, though his voice shook. The mansion was now out of sight, and they were walking a path in the sparse forest back down to the village. Why? Luffy asked, and it sounded like he couldn't decide between whining or anger. Usopp didn't answer. Instead, he threw down a smoke bomb and ran away. Luffy, Nami, and Zoro watched him leave with exasperated silence. Finally, Zoro shifted his weight and cocked his head a little in a show of mild irritation. He's good at running away. Nami huffed and tucked sweat-dampened hair behind her ear. Are you sure you want him in your crew? He seems like a coward. I don't think he can handle it. Luffy retained a thoughtful look on his face, but didn't address Zoro and Nami's concerns. I think I'll talk to him, see what his deal is. Luffy nodded to himself. Nami rolled her eyes and sassily put her hands on her hips. What do we do while you're talking? But if Luffy heard the dangerous annoyance in her tone, he didn't acknowledge it. He just shrugged. Relax. Eat some berries. Get to know each other. You're nakama now. He waved at them before disappearing into the trees towards the direction Usopp left. Zoro and Nami sighed warily at their captain's carefree attitude before regarding each other with barely concealed animosity. Bitch. Umbus. Bonding complete. Luffy caught up with Usopp at a cliff overlooking the southern beach. Luffy could hear waves crashing on the beach below. Usopp sat on the edge, his shoulders tense and expression thoughtful but far off. Luffy stood next to him, looking out to the sea, instead of trying to make eye contact. You want to go out to sea with me, don't you? You're like your father, you can feel the call of the sea. You want to see the world so badly, don't you? It's not that simple. My house and my town are here, and I have to think about my use of pirates. And, the main reason you're hesitating is Kaya, isn't it? Usopp's shoulders tensed further and Luffy grinned, barely restraining his teasing tone, and settled for another simple fact. You love her. Usopp's head whipped around, his eyes startled as he looked up at Luffy. The Straw Hat Pirate fielded Usopp's studious gaze easily with an easy smile. Fine, you're right. I do love her. But I'm too much of a coward to tell her. I don't even know if she likes me. Besides, Usopp turns, rueful and worried, to look back out at the sea. I couldn't go out to sea when Kaya was sick. I would feel terrible and she would worry if I just left without saying anything. He sighed. I'm just a coward, Luffy. You don't want me in your crew. Luffy was about to say something else when they both spotted two figures below them. One of them wore a wide-brimmed hat, heart-shaped sunglasses, and sported an odd goatee. His clothes were bright but discordant and were slightly reminiscent of the disco era. He was toying with a steel ring on the end of a string. The other man was Clahater, Kaya's butler. Usopp's eyes narrowed. He'd never seen Clahater far from the mansion. Luffy grabbed Usopp and flattened them both so that they were laying and looking over the edge. Let's see what they're up to. As the two figures grew closer, Usopp and Luffy could hear their voices. Explain something to me, Django. You were not supposed to be seen, yet I heard from a few of the townspeople that you were walking backwards through town. The butler spoke with displeasure as he adjusted his glasses. He was cold and harsh before, now his whole demeanor seemed darker. The strange, aloof man seemed unaffected by Clahater's attitude. Calm down, Captain. I was just walking through town practicing a little dance move, that's all. Anyway, why did you call this meeting, Captain Kuro? Are we finally gonna move in on this village and steal that girl's fortune? Knew it was him. Luffy muttered as he regarded Kuro. He was supposedly killed by the marine some time ago. He muttered to Usopp. Usopp, however, didn't quite share Luffy's carefree attitude. Did that guy just call him Captain Kuro? As in Kuro of 8,000 plans. But I thought he was killed by the marines. I told you before, Django, I want you to hypnotize her into writing a will leaving everything to me under the name of Clahater. Then all you have to do is order your crew to ransack the town and make sure you kill Kaya in the chaos. I've spent too much effort over these past 3 years gaining her trust and painstakingly covering up the murders of her parents to screw this up in a sloppy raid of the town. The sniper's eyes widened in fury, replacing all the fear he had earlier. He clenched his fists. This man, who insulted his lineage earlier, was really the most infamous pirate in the East Blue. A pirate who had faked his own death and had been hiding in his village like a coward for the past 3 years. A man who murdered Kaya's parents and manipulated the sick girl to think Kuro was Kaya's only source of comfort. And now he was going to murder Kaya while maintaining his persona of a faithful butler who had tragically failed to protect his charge. The town would never suspect him. Django, unaware of the storm of emotions above him, carried on easily in the intimidating presence of his captain. He waved a hand dismissively in the vague direction of the village. Don't worry, Captain. you just leave the accident to me. We just need your signal at dawn and we'll be there in half an hour's time." Without many more words the two parted. Kuro headed back towards the village while Django meandered down the beach. Usopp sprung to his feet, determined. "Come on, Luffy. We have to warn the village." Luffy rolled his eyes and reached up and grabbed Usopp's arm before he could run. Luffy stood up and looked the sniper in the eyes with a flat gaze. "Usopp, you're the town's liar. If you run through the village yelling that pirates are coming, they won't believe you. Kuro's reputation as Clahitter is solid. To them, he's a respectable man and surrogate father to the town's beloved Kaya." Usopp's expression was bordering on panic. "I don't care what they think about me, I have to try to warn them," Usopp insisted. Snapping away from Luffy's grip he ran off. Luffy looked after him warily and hummed to himself, "Idiot's gonna get himself hurt." He shrugged and set off at a more leisurely pace. Who knows? Maybe I can see his sniping skills today. Usopp, true to Luffy's prediction, was having a hard time preparing his beloved village for the pirate attack. "Pirates. Pirates are coming," he screamed. The villagers did come out of their homes, but not in preparation for any attack. Instead they were waving brooms, crowbars, pitchforks, and was the ladle. At Usopp. "Grow up, Usopp. Stop this nonsense." "Yeah. We know you just lie about pirate attacks to get a kick out of it, but enough already." Usopp shook his head fervently as he tried to organize his thoughts and find something that would make the villagers listen to him. "It's no lie. Pirates are coming tomorrow to attack the village. They're led by Clahitter, who is really Captain Kuro." Of course that just made the villagers angrier. "You go too far. How dare you make up lies about Clahitter? He's the kindest man in this village. And he's been like a second father to Kaya ever since her parents died." Usopp couldn't believe this, they didn't believe him. But he soon realized that it was his own damn fault for lying 24/7 all these years. He refused to be disheartened when he still had one chance. He just really hoped Kaya believed him. As the first volley of garbage and stones were launched at him, he took off towards his shortcut to Kaya's mansion. He clambered up his tree and knocked on her window. Kaya appeared instantly, a smile on her small face. "Usopp, what are you doing here?" She laughed, pleasantly surprised. "Do you have another story for me?" She frowned when she took in his sweaty appearance. "What's wrong?" "Aya, we have to get you out of here. Clahitter is Captain Kuro. He's planning on killing you like he killed your parents." "Kaya, please, he's going to steal your money and then kill you." Though it shouldn't be possible, Kaya paled more than her already sick visage. "Usopp, how could you say such a thing about Clahitter? I know what he said about your parents was wrong, but that does not give you the right to lie about him and say all those things about him. I can't have you do that. Please leave now, you're not a friend of mine," Kaya said, her voice wavering. "Aya, you have to believe me. He's a bad pirate and he's planning to kill you tomorrow and steal your money. He's been planning for years, working to gain your trust. He murdered your parents, Kaya." He should have expected the slap. The sound seemed to echo throughout the entire universe. It stung, but Kaya's beautiful, frail hand hardly caused damage. Yet, the rejection burned. He looked at her, stunned. Tears flew down her face even as she fumed at Usopp. "Leave now, Usopp. Maybe Clahitter was right, maybe it's you who's trying to steal my estate. Leave or I'll call the guards." Without another word Usopp jumped down and left. The only option now was to take on Captain Kuro himself. "I'll keep you safe, Kaya." At night at Kaya's estate, Kuro was preparing for the last stages of his plan. He turned to Mary, who was just finishing polishing the chandelier. "Mary, do you know where Miss Kaya is?" The older man smiled kindly at him. She's upstairs in her room, sleeping. "Poor girl, today she seemed really upset, no thanks to Usopp. He even had the nerve of accusing you of being a pirate." It upset Miss Kaya terribly. His protective attitude towards Kaya caused disdain and distrust to slip into his voice as he talked about the village liar. "The pirate, you say? He's a terrible liar. I hope he was taken care of and told not to come back and bother Miss Kaya again," Kuro asked. "Of course he won't bother Miss Kaya again. Miss Kaya told him she does not want to see him again." "What's this, Mary?" Kuro asked as he spotted a small gift-wrapped box table. "That is a present for you from Miss Kaya. Today is your 3-year anniversary since you started working here," Mary reminded Kuro with a pleased smile. Kuro opened it and saw it was a pair of glasses and a pocket watch. The pocket watch had a crescent moon design on the outside and the inside bore an engraved message. "Thank you for everything, Clahitter. Miss Kaya noticed how you are always fixing your glasses and checking the time. She's so thoughtful, bless her," Mary offered. Kuro looked out the window and saw that a crescent moon was out. "You know, Mary, the crescent moon always brings out the worst in me," Kuro told the old butler. Mary's confusion turned to alarm when Kuro threw the gifts on the ground and smashed them under his foot. "What are you doing? How could you do that?" Mary asked as he took an unconscious step backwards. Goro grinned and adjusted his glasses. The best part of this whole thing, really, is that the village liar told the truth. He tried to save everyone, and no one believed him. Mary swallowed thickly. You really are a pirate. I'm sorry, Mary, but I can't let you live now that you know the truth. Mary's yell of warning to the house was cut off with a strangled gasp. Shocked and quickly growing cold, he looked down to see 3 blades embedded in his chest. The blades were pulled out and without anything to hold him up, he collapsed to the ground in a crumpled heap. Goro put away his cat claws into a duffel bag he had concealed from view. He took a deep breath to control his bloodlust. He only got this way during a crescent moon, which earned him the title of being the most ruthless pirate captain in the East Blue. Dawn was peeking shyly over the eastern horizon. Luffy looked on as Usopp checked his guns. You're going to fight all the Black Cat pirates by yourself, Usopp. With just a rifle and a pistol. When Usopp didn't say anything, Luffy's eyes narrowed. They threw you out of your own town. Even Kaya did not believe you. Why are you fighting for them? I don't care. I'll protect Kaya and this village with my life. I won't give up until they leave or they're all dead. As far as Kaya and the town are concerned, this is just another ordinary day. I won't let Kuro get far enough to disturb them. Before Luffy could respond, Usopp's 3 young friends burst onto the scene looking panicked. Captain Usopp. We heard about that butler. Paimon shouted as they pulled to a stop in front of Usopp. Yeah, don't worry, Captain. We'll help you fight off the pirates. Temenegi added. Because nothing's stronger than us, the Usopp pirates, right? Ninjin finished. Their 3 little faces looked up at the older boys with determination. Usopp stared blank-faced at them, hardly betraying his thoughts. After a moment, he broke out into uproarious and exaggerated laughter. I sure tricked you guys. I made up that lie about Klahater being a pirate to get back at him for bad-mouthing my dad. Usopp grinned. The 3 stared up at him with something like awe, but not necessarily the good kind. Man, you got us good, Captain. Yeah, I can't believe he tricked us again. And with that the 3 stalked off, unsure if they admired or hated their captain for lying to them. Usopp watched them go, suddenly able to breathe easier. You did a good thing there, Usopp. They would only get in the way and get themselves killed. Let them enjoy their childhood. Sometimes a lie is kinder than the truth. Luffy told the sniper. Luffy's right. It's better for them not to know the truth. Nami said sympathetically, warming up to the sniper for the first time. They would just get themselves killed. Zoro's cold agreement only conveyed support for Usopp. Luffy just shrugged and grinned over at Usopp, the straw hat creating a shadow over his eyes. I guess you'll need some help if you're that set on defending this town. What? Usopp asked, surprised. You're hopelessly outnumbered. Even if you're a good sniper you can only take out so many before you get overrun. Pirates like Kuro don't care about their crew, and he'll just keep sending out wave after wave of his crew like cannon fodder until you're simply overwhelmed. Zoro said. Just remember half of their treasure is mine. Nami said, indicating she gave her consent to help. What can you guys do, anyway? Usopp asked, incredulous. I cut. The swordsman offered. I steal. Nami grinned slyly. I fry them. Luffy exclaimed. I shoot and invent. Usopp said with an answering smile. What did you invent? Luffy asked, curious. Usopp shrugged, but his grin conveyed how much he enjoyed his hobby. I invented different types of pellets for my gun. I made stink pellets that when they hit someone they act like a stink bomb, making that person stink for months. The best part is that no matter how much they wash themselves they can't get rid of the smell. I have Tabasco pellets and others that ignite on impact. I have normal bullets I modified to explode in order to cause more permanent damage. His grin fell into wariness. But why do you guys want to help me? We're your, Usopp. You're family to us and your enemies are our enemies. We'll protect each other to the death. You and your village have been threatened, which means we've been threatened as well. Luffy tells Usopp, deadly serious. Usopp stood stunned, unable to comprehend such devout loyalty from people he hardly knew. Now. Let's go show these weaklings what happens when you mess with family. Luffy exclaimed, clapping his hands once. Right. On the horizon a small armada of ships appeared like black dots, heading towards the shore. Shit. They're already here. We have to stop them from landing. Usopp exclaimed. It's too late for that. Zoro said as he pointed to a few ships already landed with Kuro's flag flying proudly. I'll take care of the reinforcements. Luffy said. Meanwhile, Zoro and Nami are going to stop those on the ships below from reaching the village. Usopp, you'll cover them with your rifle. Make sure no pirate gets through. I'll join you as soon as I'm done. And with those final commands he disappeared in a flash of lightning. Luffy reappeared on the top of the flagship of Kuro's army. Kill him. A cry came from below. I'm afraid I can't let you guys onto the island. Die. Luffy said with an animalistic grin. The pirates laughed at him, not so ready to believe that he was a threat. Luffy held his hand up towards the sky and started to focus lighting above the ship. The air charged around him and he brought his arms down. Elthor. A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and destroyed the ship, killing most and throwing the rest overboard. Luffy disappeared and repeated the process until there were only 3 ships left. Luffy reappeared upon the mast of one of the ships he had already destroyed and looked down on the remaining pirates floating hopelessly in the sea and regarded the 3 remaining ships. "What do you say? You guys surrender and promise not to come back, and I won't kill all of you." The 3 remaining ships surrounded Luffy and aimed all their cannons at him. Luffy frowned. "Last chance, guys. Surrender and I won't kill you." They ignored him. "We have him surrounded. Fire the cannons. Blow the little bastard out of the water." Luffy sighed sagely. "I guess we do this the hard way," Luffy said as he covered his body in lightning. "I suggest you guys make peace with whatever god you worship because this is the end for you all." Sango. He released a massive blast of electricity that shredded every ship in sight. "You guys are weak. You should have taken my offer," Luffy murmured as he watched bodies of dead pirates float face down in the water. On the beach, most of the pirates are out of commission. "Onigiri," Zoro growled as he cut down another wave of pirates. Nami used her to make her attack strong enough to break bones upon first impact. One attacked her from the side and she swung her staff, feeling the telltale give as ribs grinded and cracked under her blow. While Nami admired her handiwork, a few pirates snuck up on her from behind. One grabbed her roughly around the waist, throwing off her center of balance, while another's large hands encircled her arms with bruising force, preventing her from swinging her bow staff. "Strip her and we'll have some fun before we kill her," one said even as she struggled, a string of curses falling out of her mouth as she spat at one of them. As the other goes for her shirt, her anger forces her to focus. One pervert receives a hockey-infused kick to the family jewels. Concentrating, she focused her to her muscles and broke the grip of the one behind her and flipped him over. Before he could get up, she stomped savagely on his face, feeling his nose break and shatter beneath the sole of her foot. Django warily witnessed the quick defeat the crew was suffering. He knew that they could not fail, or they would face the wrath of Captain Kuro. Taking out his hypnotist charm, he swung it back and forth while shouting so he could be heard over the din of battle. "When I say to Django you will get up, you will feel no pain and be unstoppable. 1, 2, Django." The former defeated Black Cat pirates stood up like zombies, their eyes blank. There is a flash of lightning and Luffy reappears next to Zoro and Nami. Zoro frowned at the zombie-like men that had no right to be moving. "I guess these guys really are hypnotized. I'll take care of these guys, no problem. You two take a breather," Luffy said. However, before they could fight, Kuro appeared with a distinctly annoyed expression. "What's taking so long, Django? The whole town should be in flames already." The Black Cat pirates clutched at each other, genuine fear showing on their faces. "He'll kill us all," they cried to each other. Back at Kaya's mansion, Kaya walked down the stairs. She halted with a strangled cry as she saw Mary sprawled on the ground, covered in slash marks. She ran to him, sliding on her knees, careless of the blood that stained her dress. "Who did this, Mary? What happened to you?" Kaya begged as tears fell freely down her cheeks. Struggling to breathe, Mary grasped at Kaya. "Miss Kaya, you must run away and hide. Clahater did this to me, he's Captain Kuro the pirate." Usopp told the truth. Kaya sobbed harder. "No, it can't be true, please." She wasn't even sure what she was begging for. She felt the sting of betrayal by Clahater, but she felt worse for betraying Usopp. He had tried so hard to tell her, to protect her. Mary swallowed thickly, blood staining his lips. "It's true. Run, Kuro wants to kill you for your money." Kaya stood and ran out the door, determined to find Clahater and find out the truth for herself. "You're incompetent." Kuro sneered at Django. "I'll give you 5 minutes to take care of these brats and get back to seclude," Kuro warned Django in a dark tone. Django nodded, unconsciously sweating knowing that Kuro could and would kill him without a second thought. Sham. Uchi. Enough fooling around. "Kill those bastards and that red-haired bitch," he ordered. Both mentioned pirates attacked Zoro with a surprisingly severe amount of force. Zoro nearly had trouble blocking them. Zoro focused an even amount of haki into each of his blades and shouted Toragari. Tiger Hunt. He made a quick blinding dash towards the Nyaban brothers and executed a descending double slash, which caught them off guard as they were slashed clean through and they were dead before they hit the ground. "Django, the redhead is stealing the treasure." Kuro deadpanned and Django panicked further. The hypnotist looked around and saw Nami stealing their treasure. Trying not to scream in frustration, Django launched a pendulum ring with a bladed edge at her throat. Before it was even halfway, it was shot down by a bolt of lightning. "Not gonna happen." Luffy wagged his finger as if scolding a naughty child. "Django. Time's up, now you all die," Kuro said as he pushed up his glasses. He used his speed technique and slash marks appeared on all of the Black Cat pirates and they fell dead. Luffy gritted his teeth in a grimace. "You would kill your own crew? You truly are scum. They were just disposable pawns. I will get Kaya's fortune, crew or no crew." "Kuro?" cried a shaky voice. The ex-pirate tilted his head to the side to see Usopp aiming his rifle right at him. The man looked at the village liar disinterestedly. "Usopp, I didn't see you standing there," Kuro said. Usopp was scared. He knew he just gave away his position, and he was nowhere near as strong as Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. But he stayed true to his word, he would not allow Kuro to harm anyone, especially Kaya. He aimed his rifle that was loaded with real bullets and fired. Goro suddenly vanished and reappeared beside the coward. "Tell me, Usopp, was that punch earlier the best you could do?" To tell you the truth, that punch was more like a fly bite. Before Usopp could understand that he had missed because Kuro was too fast, Kuro kicked the sniper in the stomach, breaking a few ribs. The impact sent Usopp flying into a fairly large tree which splintered and fell with the force. Usopp clung to consciousness, coughing up blood as the broken ribs moved and ripped his insides. Zoro attacked Kuro, but with Kuro's speed the best Zoro could do was block the murderous pirate. Even his hockey-infused swords were of little use if he couldn't get enough speed to get an attack in. Gladiator Kaya gasped a small voice as she watched the scene unfold before her. Kuro turned his head to see Kaya standing behind him, looking at him with unshed tears of disbelief. "Please, it's not true. Please." With a sigh, Kuro let down his claws and approached the timid heiress. "Kaya, these last few years have truly been enjoyable. A healthy lifestyle, a beautiful house, and kind people who took me in." His face was calm and happy until his dark features returned. "However, I only endured it. I cared not for you or your parents, just your lifestyle, which is why I killed your parents. I bided my time for 3 years to get you to sign your will to leave everything to me. I would live in the lap of luxury for the rest of my days. Now I'll just take the money by force." That's when she realized that Usopp wasn't around. She looked in various directions to find him, but she couldn't. "If you're wondering where Usopp is," a dark smirk crossed his face as he advanced. Her legs were like jelly, and she collapsed on the ground, looking up at the dark man looming over her. "He's dead, I killed him first." He began to raise his claws at Kaya, preparing to strike. "You'll join him now. Die." Kaya threw up her hands, eyes closed, frozen with fear. "I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Usopp." When the impact and pain never came, Kaya opened her eyes and saw Usopp was crouched protectively over her, Kuro's blades embedded in Usopp's back. "Hey Kaya," he rasped. "Usopp. Don't worry, I'll go get help." She made an attempt to get up, but Usopp stopped her by gripping her shoulder lightly. She looked at him oddly. Usopp shook his head sadly. "No." He gasped. "I'll let them think it's a lie, I want them to be safe. They'll only die if they see come here." But she spoke but was interrupted by a violent cough. Her tears came back strong while she cradled his head in her lap. "I'm sorry that I didn't believe you, Usopp-kun." Usopp struggled to lift his hand up and touch Kaya's face. "I don't blame you, Kaya, I could never blame you, I love you." It was getting harder for him to see now. Her breath hitched at his confession. "Does he love me?" "Oh," Usopp-kun smiled slightly despite her tears. "I love you too, Usopp." She cradled him closer to her and leaned down and kissed him on the lips. "Kaya." His chest stopped heaving, signifying his last breath. He died with a pained smile on his face. Kaya screamed and sobbed, clutching Usopp's lifeless body to her. Usopp opened his eyes and saw an image of his mother. "Mama." She smiled sweetly at him, just like he remembered. "Hey, baby," she said softly. "You're not gone yet, baby. You're here, in this kind of limbo between life and death." He didn't really see her move, but he could feel a cool touch on his forehead like she was caressing him. "You have so much to live for. There's Kaya and the Usopp pirates. And then there's Luffy, your father, and your own destiny." He felt a soothing touch on his chest like when he was little and he would get a cold. "You're such a smart, strong, and brave baby." "I'm not," Usopp said, desperately. "I'm a coward and a liar." She smiled softly at him. "You're so much more than that. I'll help you dig into yourself. There's bravery there, and intelligence and power. Let's unlock them together. Baby, you're going to be a brave man of the sea just like your father." Usopp smiled as he let go. "You bastard." Luffy roared as he saw Kaya cradling Usopp's lifeless body. "I'll kill you for hurting my." He released such an amount of in the air, it made it hard for even the Straw Hats to breathe. His crew eventually fell to their knees, weariness from the battle making it impossible to fight against the massive pressure of their captain. Above, the sky darkened, lightning flashed, and thunder rolled and tumbled. Luffy's body was once again covered in a protective layer of lightning. Luffy usually looked like a punk, skinny and irreverent of authority. Now he was nothing short of godlike. Goro's body seemed to collapse within itself from the pressure of this man before him. He was afraid for his life for the first time. In a last desperate attempt to hold on to his plan, Goro dashed towards Kaya to kill her, but Usopp woke up and stood up like a zombie in front of Kaya, releasing a massive amount of dot. Usopp advanced a step and met Goro with a savage punch, sending the pirate careening backwards like he had Usopp just a few minutes before. Injured, Kuro still got back up, intent on murdering Usopp again, this time for sure. Luffy appeared before Kuro in a flash, his face shadowed and voice dark. "Kuro, you tried to murder my dot, the sentence is death." Luffy's primordial grin turned to crazy laughter. Kuro whimpered, unable to move. 60 million volt Julungal. A massive lightning bolt in the shape of a dragon descended from the sky and engulfed Kuro, who screamed as the lightning cut him like 1,000 blades and burned him alive. And so Kuro of the Thousand Plans fell to Straw Hat Luffy, soon to be known as Raiden the Thunder Demon of East Blue. A few days later Usopp was recovered enough to painfully move around. The Straw Hats were gathered at the harbor with their new ship the Going Merry, a present from Kaya as thanks for saving her life. Now the Straw Hats could journey more safely on the seas. "Goodbye Kaya. Thanks for the ship. We'll come back when I'm Pirate King," Luffy told Kaya with a boyish grin. "Goodbye Kaya. I'll miss you, but I have to go, I can the sea calling me out to adventure." "I think it's the same way my father felt when he left to go out to sea," Usopp said, unable to contain his excitement. Kaya smiled, enjoying Usopp's happiness. "Goodbye Usopp. I'll miss you. Remember I love you. I'm going to become a doctor so I can treat the sick and make them feel better like you did for me." Kaya kissed Usopp and seemed unable to let go of him. "Become a great adventurer like your father. Accomplish your dream and then come back to me and tell me all the stories of your adventures." With a final kiss, Usopp boarded the ship, still limping but feeling better and freer than he had in years. "Where to next, Luffy?" Nami asked with a brilliant smile. "We're meeting up with my flagship the Raijin. Then we went to the Barite to find us a chef, as the Barite is the home of the fighting chefs. We need a chef that can fight and cook." The others nod in agreement with Luffy. "Until then, I'm going to show Usopp how to harness his dot." After 2 weeks they finally pull up to a massive galleon with a Straw Hat flag flying proudly at its mast. After they boarded the ship, Luffy ordered the rest of the crew on the ship to assemble and meet the new additions to the crew. "Line up, Straw Hats. I got some new members to introduce," Luffy called. "This is Zoro. He's the new first mate. Any order from him is to be followed as if it was from me, is that understood?" Luffy asked. "Yes sir." "This is Nami. She's our new navigator, she will be in charge of planning our route. If she tells you to go a certain way when we're on the sea you obey her. Is that understood?" "Yes sir." "This is Usopp, he's our new sniper. He will be in charge of our guns and cannons during battle." "Understood." "Yes sir." "Nami, plot our course to the Barite," Luffy ordered. "Sure, no problem," Nami said with a mock salute and saucy grin. "In the meantime, a celebration is in order to welcome our new dot, what do you say?" Luffy called with a grin. Aye. Thanks for watching this video. Part 1 is over. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support the Doubledamn for writing that awesome fanfic. See you in the next video. Goodbye.